Hello there, beloved Ascension Pioneers, and welcome to this Ascension update, a very short video. And I wish to share in this video an easy exercise of our higher attunement as well, which is something that Spirit showed me for our renewal in the way that our ascended light language, which is also our body language, comes to us. So in case you haven't know this, but I'm sure most of you do, a lot of times when we in these spiritual circles, when we encounter certain information, there's a lot of talking about, listening to our gut or our gut senses or gut instincts and what they're telling us. And a lot of times we associate this with the belly chakra. So with our sense and rooting of our power. So, when sometimes we say something doesn't feel right and we get a tummy tuck or a tummy pull, people call it like this. Recently, I was thinking about this a lot in terms of how our body language is changing because we're ascending. As you know, people can get very quickly fixed on the idea of the reality that is presented to us from the outside, when in case of truth, we really are creating our own reality. So as we're ascending, everything is changing. Nothing ever stays the same. Our reality needs to expand. We need to broaden our horizons. And of course, it starts with us. We, as an intelligent life force, and the body that we have and that we embody at this time, and that we incorporate, because it's not separate from our ascension. It is a physical ascension process we're undergoing, and all my videos are based on that truth. So it's an alchemical process, and as we're moving away from the old, we are learning that everything needs to be more, not that it needs to be, but it's just naturally, organically, that's the sense of it. It's just naturally, organically shifting to a unified sense of how we perceive. And as you know, I've shared this for those of you who are regular, divine companions tuning into these updates. I've been sharing about this a lot, how when we perceive things, they need to be more unified from our ascended self. So it begins with our body. On a most physical level of our ascension, everything takes place through the body. So our cellular responses are changing. And from these old perceptions that we may have incorporated through the old dogmatic spirituality, and even the New Age spirituality, I'm not saying it's wrong or, that it's not serving certain individuals that are moving through those stages, but our perception of reality should always stay open, because as we're expanding, we're ascending, everything is changing. Our bodies are changing. That's what's really the deal here. And so I've been in this internal communication with Spirit this week about this, because I still see sometimes people use these old terms in terms of, having a gut feeling or reacting to a certain thing or information we receive from the outside, from our belly. And as you know, a lot of this sense of power, which in truth is an illusion, because there is no other power than the power of love, which is a unified field of divine love, which is the all-encompassing truth that we each need to individually embrace, because no one can sell you or give you or teach you truth. It's just something that we begin to open up more and more to ourselves. So the very nature of this unification process is that a lot of these old concepts, that something from the outside comes and it triggers a certain response in our body, a lot of these old perceptions were still coming from the separate itself. So let's say how we perceive our ego and soul as separate, when in the process of our physical ascension, the ego becomes ensouled, and the soul completely wraps the ego in a beautiful embrace of love, and they unify, they merge. So it's a unified process. So when we receive information and therefore also respond to that information, it will be from a unified sense. It will be more harmonious. So it wouldn't be just one part of our body telling us something in terms of how we respond to information. Remember, everything is always, when we perceive information, it's not separate from us, okay? It's just that when we create our own reality, we're in our own field of this resonance we build for us. So not necessarily something that will stay true for us will be for someone else. And this is okay. And I talk about boundaries here a lot, because if everyone on our planet and beyond would be already in this heart-centered living, inner neutrality, which is the balanced polarity of all, and unity consciousness, then we really wouldn't need a sense of boundaries, right? The only example and the only truth why we still need boundaries is because there's individuals and people who are not heart-centered yet. So a lot of people are there, and not always in the knowing sense. A lot of times it's unconscious what they're doing, but they rather want to plug into someone else's source, or they want to take something which they haven't yet embodied or mastered themselves, and they think it's something that comes from the outside, and usually it comes from a sense of identity, which is not soul uniqueness of expression. It's an egoic identity that's not really the true nature of our authentic soul. So a lot of times when these things are happening, we're not always aware of it, not the other who's doing that unto someone, or even the someone who's allowing it. So that's why boundaries come into play. And this is also only needed because the overall reality, which is when we move out from our safety bubble of our own ascended self, of our own vortex, we will be faced with many different things, many different people, agenda, and different realities that we are constantly in correspondence with, and we are in unity with it. But doesn't mean that because we're in our own resonance, we need to compromise that resonance in order to have balance within what is on the outside. That's not the very nature of balance. The very nature of balance does not come from compromising the self. A lot of times we've been wanting to respond to others from this sense of kindness and wanting to things to stay beautiful on the surface, it can feel very flat. And the more we ascend, the more we come into this inner authentic space, the more that falls away. It's like this, the only true honoring is the honoring the self. When you honor the self through pure respect, integrity, and your own sovereignty, then everything on the outside will eventually take care of itself. It will balance itself out, because you are the one who is living your inner balance. So now let's move on to this subject of our ascended body language. So in the old terms, when we said, okay, we have a tummy pull, we have a tummy reaction to something which we wouldn't resonate with, and as much as that was maybe the guidance, the internal guidance system within our body, how we used to ascend to a certain level, when we ascend to a certain new level, which is more unified, it's more harmonious, we will be feeling with different senses. Because if you've ever heard about this, I think there was a woman speaking about this when I started this process. I think I came across this material that, this whole representation of the Christ on the cross, being nailed to the cross, is basically an archetype, a symbology that represents a lot of humans who were completely caught off their higher senses. So it started here, the cutoff started here with our belly, so from our third chakra up. So there was like this cross was implanted so that people couldn't actually reach these higher states of consciousness. So a lot of this memory in our body comes from that, and we have these reactions in our body. If we call them gut instincts, it's very instinctual, and instinctual does not necessarily mean it's coming from a higher perception, a higher refined reality, which is more coming from our angelic self, which is harmonized, it's balanced, it's unified, okay? And what this means is that a lot of times we have that awareness already, but our body is still reacting from the old, because it's been, if you imagine it, it's been a part of this system, which was a living hologram of this planet. So plugging into this, how it is in a generalized way, made it so comfortable and familiar for so long that when something new comes, it's not always evident. So it's like we need to teach the body again to feel from a unified whole. So I'm going to show you a very quick exercise, because when I was pondering on this subject, I asked, okay, Spirit, please give me something that I can share so that we can transform in a greater way. And it gave me a very simple exercise. As truth, as what I'm being shown, is always simple. It's very simple. We don't need, I don't know what kind of complicated techniques or modalities. There are very simple exercises and very simple spirit alignments that we can do. I have beautiful light activations on my Serapina Light page as well that help us to move into that space, because they align us with this higher refined reality. But as well as you doing your own simple ascension exercise, please watch the playlist I have on YouTube with these ascension exercises, because they're always going to be very simple, very basic. In the end, as you know, everything goes to the basics. So let's try to imagine a situation when you have a certain reaction to something that comes as external information, and your first response would be a tummy tug, or it will be something with your muscles contract. So when there's a contraction, it means that you also come from a contracted energy. It's how it is. It means that a part of your body is still contracting from the mode of fear, of separation. So it doesn't mean that your awareness is there. It just means that your complete body, if you would scan your body, it wouldn't mean that the whole of the body is in that state in terms of your vibration, but there might be an area in your body that still has this perception that is basically coming from this old, that deals with separation. So when there's this cutoff of energy happening, and usually that's where these energy links or the energy drainages or these energy leaks can take place there, because wherever we're still in separation mode, that's going to be our weakness. It's going to be working in a way against the self, because it will be in this constant inner conflict. So let's imagine a situation when you get contracted, and a lot of the times for many sensitive people, it will be sensing the external. It might not be that you yourself are feeling this, but you will maybe feel an expression of the other, but you're still feeling it. So I'm not saying that when we feel that, that would be wrong, okay? I'm just saying that we can transform it, because we're here as beings of light who are ascending to a new level, which means all ways, all forms of expression, not just in your awareness, but we are embodying this. That's what it's all about. So we have very simple tools, and I always work with an alignment with spirit that it shows me these tools, so that we who are actually doing the work here have the power, which is the power of love, not the power of control, that we bring that back into inner harmony, to alignment, So if you imagine having this response, it's not might be to a specific person when you relate to another, it might be to a situation or an environment that you. Sometimes people tell stories of how certain environments or places make them feel. They make them feel more contracted. So when you feel this contraction, whether it's a tummy tug or muscles contract, you feel, okay, this is how I'm reacting to the energy on the outside now. There's a very simple exercise you can do. So imagine that part of your body, whatever it is. Ask it. Don't necessarily make an assumption, okay, this is coming from my intellect, this is coming from my ego, this is coming from my soul, because again, we're constantly making this separation. Ego, soul, personality, soul. The soul embodiment means that the whole of you becomes an illuminary being. Like how we imagine these saints and masters, they were luminaries. That's why we see them with halos around their heads, because it means that they actually were overlit by this soul energy. They were overlit by their inner Christ. It means no longer egoic soul. I've shared this with you so many times before. So when we have moments like that and we feel our body expresses itself this way, just let's pause for a moment and ask ourselves, how can we make this reaction more unified? And then imagine this body part of yours and feel the contraction where it is. Don't just make a quick assumption, oh, that's because I feel this way, or this person said that, or a lot of times we make these external assumptions which are not so enlightened. Let's call it like that, okay? It's the best language I can think of right now. But imagine that this part of your body, which is contracting, which is giving you a signal, that now, because you're moving into this higher, more expanded reality, which is pure love, it's pure white light of source, of creation. And I always talk about working with a white column of light. This is what the pillar of ascension is. So imagine that part of you. When you talk to it, when you embrace it, you embrace the contraction, you embrace the feeling without seeing the separation. Okay, my belly is giving me a message, a warning. It's when we come from this state, it's always going to continue to be separate. It's never going to move into unity. That's the whole thing. We say, okay, I need those because I need to be safe. I need to have these feelings or gut feelings showing me where I'm safe, very instinctual. We did need our ego in a way to survive in certain modes, but as we ascend higher, certain things need to drop away. They're dissolving because we're moving into a different reality. Okay, so certain things need to dissolve because it's just time to dissolve. So we're the ones doing the work. And as you see yourself and move into this part of you, which is giving you a story, a message, a signal, just bring that part. Visualize that part, wrap it with white light. It's almost like feel a spiraling white vortex of light moving around that contraction. It's maybe a higher or lesser degree, it doesn't matter whether it's a spasm or something to a lesser degree. Whenever there's contraction, there's a meaning behind that contraction, but we're making it unified here, okay? So visualize that and see it like moving up and becoming like more and more of this white pillar. It's like a white light vortex. Like imagine a perfectly white galaxy, okay? So it's coming out from that core. And as it starts to spin from that spot, you see it forming a white column of light. and you instantly move into your white column of light, which is your ascension pillar. And then just ask and say and state to yourself that you move this part which still feels separate or contracted, or and that it is safe to love and to release into the unity, that it's safe for us to release it into this unified field, which means sometimes when we get information from the outside, we question things that come from the outside, and we feel that the contractions are associated with questioning things and realities or agendas of other people. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. When you bring it to the white column of the white flame, your white ascending pillar, you're actually releasing it to your creation light, to your creation core, and you're releasing it from the knowing of all agendas, intentions, and you're just moving it to unified field. Only balanced polarity here. No more conflicting, opposing polarity here. No more duality. No more separateness. You're still feeling. You're a feeling being, but you release that contraction into this. And you just see from that moment up, white column forming, moving, spreading out, until you see that you're only standing as the white pillar itself. You are the white light of creation. You are white field of unity. And that's all you need to know. The rest, you need to start trusting into this white light of creation. This is almost like the surrendering to source, that our higher selves that are part of this source energy, they have our back. We are supported. We don't need to always be so, how do I call it even? I don't know, but like being a neutral observer, a compassionate observer is not the same as always being in this on the lookout, always being defensive. And a lot of these reactions, which are old reactions in the body, because they do reflect in the body, in different centers of our body, where we might hold these contractions, or it might be just the belly, it might be other places in your body as well. But the thing is that it doesn't matter so much why it is like this, but just surrendering into the releasing of the white light of unity, which is a higher intelligence. It's the intelligence of all that is love, all that is pure. It's complete purity. And as you do this, you surrender yourself to your higher self, because what we're doing in this transition into the ascended self, we're talking about the higher self as though it's a part of us that we can never fully merge with. It's always, okay, I'm in communication with the higher self, but you constantly have this feeling like we can't embody it, like it can't be us, like we can't become it. It's always like this fine line between it, and we will never fully ascend before we dissolve those veils and those illusions of this separateness that we have, because our main illusion is not just, okay, being separate from others. We talk about unity as, okay, you're not separate from your brothers and sisters and fellow companions and the planet and the universe and the multiverse. It's you feeling that you have somehow lost a connection with your source, your I amness, your I amness. So this is what we're bringing back with every reaction, with every observation of that reaction, with every contraction. Releasing it to the white column of ascension, to the white pillar of light, which is basically our creation pillar. My whole page, Set Up Pina Light, is dedicated to this work. There's much there shared that supports this process of ascension. So for those of you who might have more questions, take a look at the page first. There's a lot written there, but if you have any additional questions, you always know where to find me, where you can ask additional questions, because we really are responsible for this work. It begins with us. And in my journey, because I know I came here to share this knowledge, but I need to always have a direct experience with something that plants a seed with me to start pondering on something, and then awareness comes, but then I seek this integration to embody it. It's just a natural process of our ascension. But when we don't do that, we stay always like this. We think that's the reality we're in now. It's all there is. But things are going to continue to change. And where we are now, it's never going to be a final destination. And there will be more and more and more. But it begins with us really learning to release into that white column, into that white flame, and to work with this trust. This is you trusting your higher power, but not as an outside of you, but becoming it, this white pillar. I mean, all my life I had challenges because, for me everything was always so beautiful and pure and integrated and unified. But then I came out of my bubble in the external reality. It was always like, ooh, ouch, ooh, boo-boo, ooh, defensiveness. I encountered a lot of defensiveness from others, from people at large, the world at large. We will always feel this in a way until we would say everybody would be with this awareness with us, but we can't count on that to shift. We can wait for the world to change before we start doing this within us, because we are the ones who came here to do this first, right? So the thing is that when we feel this defensiveness, it's like being in this observation state that, you know, even if it's coming from the outside, if you're feeling this defensiveness or whatever it is from the outside, you can still release it because of the principle of unity, because we're all interconnected. So you can release, you can surrender that. And to only use the boundaries when it's really crucial for us to wield our sword of truth, and to use them because we feel that others are not maybe yet heart-centered, or they have agendas, or they want things from us that are not on a soul level. A lot of times it's like, you know, energy vampires do exist, but we have to stop feeding them. You know, that's the only way that we can learn, all of us. So in order to resolve something, we need to go to the root, and the root is always this unity consciousness. So no longer perceiving ourselves as separated from this higher self, we need to start merging with it. We need to start embracing this beautiful melding process that we are undergoing in our physical ascension. So I hope this was helpful in some way. Whenever you find yourself, don't just be in this mode, but, you know, do the exercise. It can only take 1 minute or less. You know, it's so little that we can do, but it changes so much. And we really, really change so much with the subtlest things, you know, and it really counts on the behalf of all, because we are all. So thank you so much for watching and supporting. I'll talk to you soon. So much to share now. Beautiful expansion. As you can see, we have received new information. We've been going through a lot of new galactic precipitation at this time, which is a beautiful process. So I'll talk to you soon. As always, so much love, wisdom, and power. And take care. Bye-bye.